But my name is Ben Watkins. Currently I work for North Carolina Emergency Management. I'm an area coordinator, which basically means there are seven counties that I'm primarily responsible for as a liaison from county emergency management to state emergency management, and I run emergency response for the 33 Piedmont counties within North Carolina. I'm also the executive director of Dipper 6, or Domestic Preparedness Region number 6 in North Carolina. And that within that region, what us as the executive directors are tasked with, we're in charge of ensuring the counties under our purview are continuing with their programs, getting the equipment they need, and spending or making sure the Homeland Security funding expenditures are done to meet the goals set forth by Homeland Security. And those are goals like, especially this year, cybersecurity, vote security, or whatever, however they worded it, just different things like that. So a little bit of background, so everybody knows currently I work for emergency management. I started off in emergency services a long time ago when I was 16 and went full time with the state of North Carolina as a forest ranger. So I've traveled all over, done in all kind of wildfire investigations, and quite honestly, it's one of the greatest jobs in the world because I've got an inner pyro, so I was a paid professional pyromaniac. And so that was great. And then from there, moving around the state, I worked in corrections for a little bit, so I got introduced into a whole new world of society, I should say. And it gives you a bit different view. And so now I work in emergency management. And with all that, I'm going to name 3 incidents real quick. Those 3 incidents have changed my view on how I continue within my professional careers, how I see different things in general, and how getting all the information and data that is out there in the world, could affect outcomes that come down to physical life safety, because the 3 events involved fatalities. MAFS 7, or Modular Airborne Firefighting System number 7. That was an Air National Guard C-130, July 1st, 2012. I see somebody nodding their head, probably remember that. They flew out, were fighting fire out west on the White Draw Fire in South Dakota. Lead plane was about a mile ahead of them, flew down a ridge, and that lead plane, they pop smoke, and as soon as that C-130 hits that smoke, they're supposed to eject their load, so that way they can lay a retardant line. The lead plane hit a microburst, flew through. That's something that you can't see, you don't know it's there. If we had some data sensors, weather technology, we might have seen it, but the microburst, it's just like straight line winds. You've seen summertime thunderstorms pop up. Blew that lead plane, and that's usually like a Cessna King Air, something of that nature. It went within 10 foot of the ground. After reviewing the black box, the radar said it was about 8 to 10 foot off the ground, and he was able to pull out. C-130 is a lot bigger. C-130 went 0 foot to the ground. Connected, 4 fatalities. Pilots, navigator, engineer, crew chiefs in the back, they got ejected out the back. They are walking, living today. If we had the information on that, maybe we could have said emergency abort, said, hey, pull out, abort, abort, abort. I can't tell you it would have changed the outcome. Who knows? Everybody saw this one. What's the date on that one? I know it's 2013. June 30th, 2013. Granite Mountain hot shots. 19 out of 20 firefighters died. Wildland firefighters out in Yarnell Fire, Arizona. They had to make an emergency call, pull out, the fire turned because the weather changed, started blowing head fire their way. They had to pull back to a safety zone, deploy their fire shelters. As a wildland firefighter, I'll tell you, got cooked like a baked potato. Not a pleasant feeling. Not a pleasant feeling seeing people in the same profession that happens to. So, could they have got weather data, instant weather data, if we had, a drone sitting up monitoring weather, doing spot weather checks, getting live feedback on microclimates from the National Weather Service? I don't know. Would it have changed the outcome? I can't tell you. Officer Jason Crisp and K9 Officer Amaros, U.S. Department of Agriculture, Forest Service law enforcement officer, stationed in Smoky Mountain National Forest out of Burke County. In Burke County, North Carolina, Lake James, City of Morganton. They had a murder suspect, found 2 bodies at his house, and he retreated up into the forest. The officer, hey, that's part of his jurisdiction. What does he do? He does his job. Instant deploys him, his dog, on this track of the suspect, goes in there, suspect's waiting, ambushes him, kills the officer and the dog. 2 hours later, sheriff's deputies, they're a little peeved that their buddy just got offed and his dog. That suspect didn't live through the rest of that day. So those are 3 incidents that they have all changed the way we do business. We changed our firefighting tactics. We changed our aerial tactics. And those overlapped in firefighting or just, I do a lot of search and rescue, use aerial assets, changed how we do airspace deconfliction and everything. Not just deconfliction with aircraft, like these guys up here we've talked about many times, but deconfliction, thunder cells, thunderheads, whatever you want to call them. And then, Jason Crisp, when he was killed in 2014, I helped teach a class. It's called Tactical Man Tracking in Operations. We deploy that. We teach that to law enforcement agencies. I've taught it feds, state, local, sheriffs, municipalities, everything. It's about how to work in teams of 2s and 4s, tracking suspects through the woods, just so I'm not going to say you'll come out alive every time, but it's giving you a tool that you're going to help track through the woods. You're going to pick up signs that normally you wouldn't. I'm an avid woodsman, avid outdoorsman, so there's stuff that I see walking through the woods. I mean, I can walk out in a parking lot and I can tell you, hey, somebody walked through here 30 minutes ago. They got boots that are about 3 days old. They're size 13s. Smokes Marlboro Reds. Likes Pepsi. You're like, how do you know that? Well, I just walked to his car and there's a receipt with a brand new boot box. There's a pack of Marlboro Reds and a Pepsi in the dashboard. That's data that when I talk about it's irrelevant in the moment, just like doing heartbeat monitoring, first responders, irrelevant in the moment, but when you need it, it becomes very important. And so I say that stuff to set it up. We heard in the little video right here some buzzwords, and they're just buzzwords, keywords, whatever you want to call them, that are within our industry in general today. Interoperability. I've seen it. North Carolina uses a lot with the state. We have Motorola those are our radio carriers, and so everybody's always like interoperability. In our radio system, we use the Viper 800 system in North Carolina for the state, largest trunk radio system in the world. And so they preach interoperability. Great. Can I talk South Carolina? No. So why not? I cover down to South Carolina. I cover to Virginia. If I go to South Carolina line and I got to talk to the responders over there, can I just pull them up on the radio? Pushy talkie, clicky clicky, nope. Like I've used the term. I don't know if you remember back early 2000s, there was a little commercial series called The Trunk Monkey. And you would pull up and then somebody's like beating on the car or whatever, and the guy just opens up his trunk and a monkey jumps out of the back with a tire iron and beats the suspect and then jumps back in. That's me. That's what I do. I'm the monkey in the back, okay? I don't figure all this fancy stuff out. I go out in the field and you're like, hey, yeah, there's fire over there. Go put it out. I got you covered. And then they're like, hey, bad guy, go find them. Got you covered. So develop some software system. Oh. Who knows how to do that? That's where you guys come in. So that's why I'm here to tell you guys how we, little monkeys in the field, can employ all these things and how you guys can help influence and continue to advance the professions with further responders and everything. I know I've talked to Bill Miles. He heads up the whole DoD side of the house, and you'll hear on the colonel and everything. And that is an awesome world. Their whole job is to put rounds on target faster so we can get our men and women back home and safe. My whole job is to make sure you guys and all the civilians within CONUS stay safe. So that's what we're all here for. I get asked, emergency management, what do we do? Well, EM stands for eat and meet. So we're eating and we're all meeting. See what we did there? But no, really, it's what do we do? I'm an emergency manager. I have gone from being a boot on the ground to a manager. I'm not an emergency doer. I'm a manager. When I've worked at our state operations center as my air operations functional lead, which means during our state, we activate for emergency, and we've got a hurricane coming in. I'm managing all the air operations side of the house. I've got multiple aircraft and multiple agencies under my purview. We're doing HART rescues. That's a helo-aquatic rescue team. That's where we have Blackhawks go out, Coast Guard 60s go out, and you see it on TV. They did it a million times in Katrina. Helicopters over there, hoist somebody up off a house out of the water. So we've got, and during Hurricane Florence, that was one of our Florence, then Dorian, and everything else. Some of our biggest air assets rescues we had. I had agencies there that I didn't know had some of the equipment in the air. I had Customs and Border Patrol there with a MQ-9 Reaper. I'm like, why? Wait, is that thing armed? Like, if it is, cool. Where's the red button? So, but I was like, why? And I didn't know it was there. That's where, if you guys do the little glass pocket airspace where I could have seen, hey, wow, this is all the aircraft I've got stacked. I had drones stacked from 20 feet all the way up to the Reaper. They told me it was like 60,000 feet. I was like, nah, I know Skunk Works. You guys lie every day. That thing is way up there. Who knows what else we got up there? But I've read the book. I read Tom Clancy. You kidding me? And so, but as an EM, and especially in my job, what I do, because I am out there in the field, we have so much information that comes out of the field, so much data. Bill, he is on a fire department. His fire department does swiftwater rescue. It fights fires. They do a lot of EMT calls, all kind of stuff. That fire department is responsible for this jurisdiction. There might be 14 fire departments in a county. Well, so you got 14 fire departments in a county. I've got 33 counties. I don't math well, and I can't tell you what that is off the top of my head, but I can tell you that's a lot of people. That's a lot of stuff going on. And they're all feeding back up information from, we've executed this many rescues. We've got this much equipment downrange. I've got this equipment out of service. We need diesel fuel over here because these gas stations are flooded. You know, I've got 10 people in a shelter over here. We need MREs over here. I'm pulling all this information in. And as emergency manager, like I said, I'm not out rescuing people. I'm not out putting people up in shelters. But what I am doing is going, wow, look at all these requests and stuff coming in. I got to figure out how to do the little Ouija board of moving resources here and there. And there's different programs. We utilize something called WebEOC. It's great for what it is, and it's terrible for what it is. And this is in my humble opinion. Because like if I need to do live resource tracking, I need something that's easy. I come from the firefighter, law enforcement side of the house where we're not looking overly complicated. I need to look at a screen where it's got a green button or a red button. And green button means go, red means stop. We don't have any in between, so that's why there's no yellow. And so I just need something simple. And if I'm trying to do all these resource tracking, part of our tracking is we've got a common operating picture. I pull up the map. It's got every piece of data that you could ever think of, from FIMAN, which is our flood tracking, to power outages, to wind predictions, to shelters, to, you know, it'll show the locations where our teams are housed. But if I deploy an asset, I don't care where they're housed. I need to know where they're at. I need to know what county they're in. Because if I send 14 swiftwater teams to one county that actually absolutely got devastated, then I don't realize that I've sent them down there unless I physically know and just look at a whiteboard where I'm writing numbers down. And I just have to remember, okay, I've got 14 teams. Wow, they're all gone to this one county. I've got, 50 miles away, all of a sudden we've got flash flood popping up. I've got to start breaking some teams off. And so I want a map that I can look at and see, just simple. I do colors, for God's sakes. I don't eat the crayons, but I do colors. And I want to see, oh, look at the flashy button. Look at the little dot. It's moving here. It's moving there. And just something simple. And people laugh because, yeah, I can be a goober. It's trunk monkey, whatever you want to call it. But at the end of the day, the simplicity of things, boom, instant decision. Quick, fast. We're in a business where I can sit there and try to pull as much information as I can and try to make a decision. And I've seen it. I call it paralysis analysis. You might have heard that one. I've seen it. People sit there to wait to make a decision. I just want a little bit more info. Then by the time I'm like, bud, the event is gone. It's done. Like, we can go home because there's nobody left to save. But I still got to make a decision. Well, I'm making a decision. Going to the house. See ya. And so, wildfire. We always like, all right, how fast is this thing going? What's the terrain? What's the fuel? What type of fuel loading is it eating? How fast is it eating that fuel? What resource do I have? I don't know all those off the top of my head. And I'm taking and physically drawing this thing out on the hood of my truck in the dust. And I got to make a decision quick. It's not the best decision in the world, but it's a decision. And so that's where, and that's why I said, going back to those 3 incidents that I named at the beginning, it might not be, the outcome might not have changed, but I would be able to get more information quicker and make a more informed decision. Once again, might not be the best, but it's still a decision. Going to past technology. What technology have we done in the past? And you're gonna laugh at this one, and I laughed when I wrote it down. I was like, hey, that's kind of funny. But it's something we actually use. Now, I don't ride a horse now, but I've sent people on 4-wheelers. Paul Revere. How did he spread the message? Rode a dang horse through town saying the British are coming. When I have been on scenes, on incidents, lost all communications, it's like, oh man, I see firefighter there. He's back at base because of a heat stroke. I'm like, hey man, I know you're not feeling so hot, nothing physical. Here's a message. Get on that 4-wheeler. I need you to go 14 miles down the road as fast as absolutely possible because this is emergency info. And there's my modern day Paul Revere riding off on some little machine. And so, firefighting. How did, from wildfires to just regular calls to car accidents, whatever. In your Ford Model T in 1930 something, did you call 911? Did you have OnStar? No, when you drove off the side of the road in a ditch and you flew out whatever your Formica windshield or whatever they use, then you had to wait for the farmer to come down the road to go check on his cows, and maybe he can help you and get you to the doctor. Back, we have fire towers. Everybody's like, oh man, fire towers are so cool. They're great. I was a wildland firefighter because I hate heights. I don't climb ladders. I don't dangle from ropes. I can sit on the side of a helicopter all day long with my feet dangling out. Don't ask questions. I don't know. Yeah. So, but in a fire tower, it's use the whole triangulation method. Is you've got 3 fire towers that can see each other in the whole network, and so you're like, oh wow, I see a smoke coming up, and you turn your little compass, shoot an azimuth, you call the next fire tower, hey, this is the direction I'm looking at. So that fire tower is going to look at the map, see you, shoot one there, then look off to the right. Oh yeah, and they'll aim their compass, shoot an azimuth, and then like, cool, great, there's a wildfire over there. Usually the towers are located at ranger stations, so then they just yell down to the ranger at the bottom, hey, wake up, there's a fire over there, go. And so we take, and that was how fires were called out. That's the way it worked. They didn't have cell phones. We're talking, all the way up till, I remember when my parents had a bag phone in the car, they always yelled, don't touch it. And so that now we have cell phones, so fire towers are antiquated. They're out of the way. Somebody can park on the side of the road and be like, hey, the world's on fire. And so, all the little guys in green trucks, red trucks, white trucks, whatever, a truck shows up and sprays water on, or in my case, I love using fire to fight fire. And so that's what we throw fire on. We teach, and I teach wilderness search and rescue for the state. And part of that is wilderness survival and everything else. And when I teach it, folks show up to my class, and they're like, and we go over land nav and everything, because if you can't figure out how to navigate across the land and where you're at, how can I trust you to go find the victim and navigate back out? And so that's, you got to pass that test. You don't pass the test, you don't go. And people are like, why do I need to pass the test? Why do I need to know how to read this map? Because I put a 1 in 24,000 grid square map on there, just topographic. Here's your compass, here's your pencil. You need to go, here's your starting point. You see where we're at, identify where we're at on that. We're right here. Okay, cool. I need you to go 800 meters south-southeast at a, 185 degrees, whatever. They're like, okay. Well, I've got a GPS unit. Can I just use that? Yeah, man, let me see that GPS unit. Take it. Take the batteries out. Throw them in the puddle. What did you do that for? You just fell in the river, man. GPS is dead. Figure it out. And so I take their technology from them, because it's like, I want you to figure this out. Now, I say that because I'm working my way towards compiling all this information we have into some type of AI system that'll spit information out. And I say AI very cautiously because all my friends make fun of me. Look, the Governator, there's plenty of movies on that one. Skynet, I don't trust it. It's coming. You want to argue that one? Whatever. But I take their technology from them because I need them to understand this is where we came from, but it's still a fallback you need to know. That being said, after they show me, hey, I know how to do this here, I can navigate, then I'll give them a fresh set of batteries and be like, sorry, I didn't mean to be rude. But, I'm glad you understand now. Current technology, I went over a little bit. Currently, we have, I've got a Garmin Rhino 660. That's what I use when I search. That's what I have. And then, for resource tracking, we have WebEOC that I track. It's just a database. It keeps all our missions in there. It keeps all of our equipment in there. And then we've got cradle points on our trucks. And so I'm a rolling internet database. At some point, 5G is going to irradiate me. I don't know. And so just because it's literally packed under my seats where we keep our cradle point, so I always make kind of jokes on that one. So if you represent a 5G company, I swear I'm not trying to take your business. Just making a joke. But with all that said, future technology, where can we go? What would we like to see? I would like to see some type of, doesn't have to be an AI platform. Maybe that's what it's called. I don't know. Once again, I'll remember the trunk monkey. I'm not very smart at that part. Whatever you want to name it, I need a tool that can help think safety third. And I said that one time at a safety briefing, and man, you're talking, people's minds blew out. Safety third? No. I said, whoa. Safety third. When I'm talking that is, I need something that's going to be able to take the vast amount of data that we're pumping out, because remember, I got 33 counties under me that are pushing up data, all kinds of data. And at one person, I struggle to figure out what we're going to get for lunch today. I'm a government worker, so 9 a.m. hits, first question to your buddies, where are we eating lunch? So you got 3 hours to figure that one out. So that's where I'm at. And so I need help. I'll get vapor lock if I start trying to figure out all the information that's coming out. So if I can have something that would start spitting out options, just help me make those decisions faster. Jason Crisp, that the law enforcement officer who was killed. If we had something, you roll up on scene on that one, I was not physically on that scene, but I've been on plenty of others. And it's all the same, just the same bones, the same working. You show up, you're like, all right, suspect's over there. He's armed, he's dangerous, nothing to lose. Somebody's probably getting shot today. I sure hope not, but there's a good possibility. That's what's going on in my head. And I'm trying to think like him. I'm trying to think, what's that suspect doing? In just like when we do lost person behavior analysis, lost person questionnaires on dementia walk-off patients, or just 4-year-old Sally, she ran away from home because she followed a dog out the door. We're going through and we just plug all this stuff in this very rudimentary, archaic little Excel thing that, honest to God, almost feels like I'm typing code in a computer. And it spits out a probability of, and I load it and overlay it on my map and say, all right, probably 90% chance they're in this spot. And so that's all I know. That's all I know. It's like, all right, but just 90% chance. But hey, they might be over here. And so where I'm going with this is, Jason Crisp, when he retreated up into the mountains in the forest, if we had something that he was a wanted murder suspect, already killed 2 people, he had already been incarcerated, and so they had a vast database of him. They knew his behaviors, knew what he was like, knew his general physical condition. So you can just go through and start checking boxes in a database. It might tell you he's, given his condition, his physical ability, his mentality, what his preferences are, weapon of choice, all this, he's probably made it 3/4 mile in the woods. His mental state and way he always thinks in his history, he's probably going to be holed up behind some rocks, or did he build an improvised shelter real quick? Is he trying to hide? Does he have any woodsman experience? Is he former military, former law enforcement? Is something of that nature? And that's all going to, give different variables. And so you enter all that in, and boom, all right, now I've known he's made it this far, and you enter, then you take the data from the map, from like raster data or something like that, that's going to show terrain, topography, what type of coverage you have on the terrain. Is it open forest? Is it scrubland forest? Is it foggy? Is it cold? Is it snowy? What's going on? And it'll show high probability. Here's your ambush points. Here's where he might be holed up. Cool. When I said safety third, I don't need that program. I don't need it to tell me what is the safest route. I want to know, hey, here's the 5 routes to get ingress, egress to that one spot. Show me the safest one. Show me the fastest one. Show me the best route that could provide fastest lethality to neutralize the subject. Show me the route that'll provide the fastest survivability in case that a responding officer gets shot. Show me all those, because at the end of the day, it still requires human input to execute the decision. I mean, we can program stuff to do all day long, but at the end of the day, this is still a machine. It's still going to wear out, just like we're all going to wear out. We're going to get tired. You're probably going to get tired of hearing me talk, for God's sakes. But that's something that we would like to see, and not just for, you know, law enforcement applications. Well, I just thought of one while I was looking at the different surrounding the cities, and I don't know. I've been doing so much with, especially the past since 2020, all our civil disturbance responses and everything. I go to all these disturbances. I've been to Charlotte, went to Asheville, been to Greensboro. These are all the larger cities in North Carolina. Been to Raleigh. When you have the large groups of people, protesters, going through and they get a little rowdy, start destroying parts of the cities, whatever. I know we've had them in Atlanta. Shoot, you guys just had the attack on the training center down here, for God's sakes. And so all this data, it can help predict, okay, hey, I'll use the attack on the training center for one thing. I am a liaison officer for emergency management to what we call our SBI. I don't know what Georgia has it. I know South Carolina has SLED, but they're not original. So we've got the SBI, State Bureau of Investigations, or AKA the second bunch of idiots. God, I'm gonna catch. They're gonna yell at me for that one, but we got FBI as the first bunch of idiots. So, but we take, and I'm liaison officer to those guys. So whenever I go out on like a civil disturbance, one thing we do is, man, I'm watching those guys mine all the data off all the social media sites, off all Snapchat. For God's sakes, everybody's like, oh, Snapchat deletes after a while. Yeah, that's great. But you got your map active, man. There's a heat map on it, for God's sake. Just a little yellow ghost, click on it. Oh, wow, look, there's a giant orange blob over here in the middle of the woods near the training center. And they've already picked up some chatter on their LE side of, hey, there might be something going on. And so that's just information that they can pull. Now, the trick is getting law enforcement by nature is siloed. I know we hit some buzzwords, silo, interoperability. Law enforcement by nature is siloed because they do investigations. There's stuff that they just cannot share with uncredentialed people. 100% get that. You might have seen in the news in Moore County, they still haven't finished the investigation. FBI is being very tight-lipped on it, but we had an attack on the power grid. Somebody went and shot up the power grid right outside of Southern Pines. And it was a really easy, simple attack. Literally just walk up and shoot the transformers that are all sitting there. Guess what? You can find all those places on Google Maps. And so they went and did that. But so they're always going to be siloed because they don't want to share information that could hamper the investigation. Totally get it. So one thing, when I said I'm liaison officer, that North Carolina is trying to do, we're trying to bridge that gap, trying to break down those silos. And that's one thing that we can do with all the data that different vendors and such, we'll use the data, we'll use your programs to say, hey, we need to bridge this data. Input all your data in the side of this house, input all my data in this side, and you have some filters on yours, so I'll get out the data that I'm allowed to see. And I'm on the EM side of the house, so with FOIA requests, you can get everything down to what I ate for lunch. So, you know, we have all that fun stuff. And that's where we need to start breaking down silos. And by doing that, it's going to allow us to constantly share all the information that we've all mined and the grandmasters have been able to take and send into a unique application for us little monkeys can figure out real simple. And what do we do with all this information now that we've been able to pull and bring out? And now that we've able to figure out, hey, instead of all being dumped into a dashboard, and me being able to, man, that's a lot of information. I can only use 2% of it. I don't know. Woo. And so if we're able to filter it down, present it out, it's how do we use this? We do resource tracking. You know, what resources do we have? And it was mentioned earlier by Mike with Blue Force when he was talking about he had an incident where they had an attack at a subway system and they had 2,000 responders show up. And my first thought was, man, I wonder how many of those responders were credentialed in like confined spaces or anything else. Like, what all do you have? What credentialing do you have? Because at a search, when we run a search, excuse me, you're going to have every good-hearted citizen in the community show up. And that, you know, God bless everyone that wants to help, because you know what? Society now, there's some just people who just absolutely would turn the other way because it doesn't further whatever personal agenda they have. And so we have people show up to help. Problem is, I need trained searchers. I need people who are credentialed. And they need to know what to look for instead of contaminating scenes. Just like law enforcement doesn't share information because they don't know who all's credentialed. They don't know who's going to contaminate a scene, contaminate evidence, whatever. So if we're able to take and do our resource tracking and have something that automatically spits out, you've got 200 searchers on here. 50 of them are credentialed. Boom. There's a bunch of team leads right there, because then those team leads can then take the uncredentialed folks. And so instead of me walking out the incident command trailer and be like, hey, who all's got the land search credential as a team lead in here? Well, I do. Then you've got Johnny over there getting his stuff out of his truck. What'd he say? Then you got to repeat yourself 15 times. It's like, God almighty. And so, and then it comes down to here, just print out a little 8x11 sheet of paper, slap it on the side of the thing, so when people walk by, it's like, oh, check in if you got this credentialing. Yeah, it works. Is it cumbersome? Yeah. Does stuff fall through the cracks? Yeah. Is it field expedient? Oh, yeah. But if we had something that could help us be, instead of just going, well, it's what we had in the field, it worked, hey, that's great and all, but I need something that's going to help bring people home. Because at the end of the day, that's what we're here for. We're here for civilian and responder safety. We're here to save lives, bring people home. And in the occasional case, make sure the bad people get where they need to go. So, and then with all that information that you're getting in, because then I've got know who my team leads are. I know who I've got SWAT training officers to enter this situation. Oh, wow, on that SWAT team, I've got some hostage negotiators on there. Cool. That helps do tactic development. And that way we're taking and going, all right, we've got these resources. Now I can start employing these tactics and start rolling into those tactics. And I can use and build those tactics out to figure out how to most efficiently and effectively meet my incident objectives. Because that incident commander, whether it's a single incident commander or a unified command, they've set forth objectives of that incident, things that need to happen. But is it restore power? Is it get gas back on? Is it free the 12 hostages from Nakatomi Tower or whatever? You know, have a Christmas party over there. But that's how we help and start bridging the gap, breaking silos, compiling data, and it's all to help us figure out how to further public safety in general. And I know I said safety third, and I've got that list written down as the last thing. And I want people to take away, I'm not saying we need to ignore safety. No, it's we need to continue giving us all the options to help us figure out what's going to be safe for the incident on hand. And one of those things, and I'll wrap this up by that part of this whole deal was smart cities. They wanted to know, how can we help make a smart city? We're not talking about smart city like you got your Nest thermostat in your house. You walk in and they're going to control the temperature of the city. No. It's predictive analysis, and that's where all your AI, remember I said AI, bringing in predictive analysis, where a bad guy's going to be and everything. We mentioned it earlier. What do we use predictive analysis to keep a city safe? Here, it's going to predict higher crime rates in certain areas, so you're going to be able to move resources faster, you know, or hurricanes coming. In North Carolina, I said it earlier, North Carolina has its chin stuck out in the middle of the Atlantic, and it likes to take a hurricane about every year on it. It can be a big one or a small one. But we have to evacuate. We've got the fun things called the Outer Banks. There's a strange group of people that live out there that when you say Cat 5's coming, the wrath of God is about to rip you off the face of this earth, they're like, I got this. And so they won't leave. And so it's like, all right, bud, here's a grease pencil, social security number on every limb so we can at least put you back together. And so, yeah, that's the hold my beer moment. And so, but how do we get all these people? City of Wilmington is a port city for North Carolina. Very large city. City of Beaufort, port city. How do we evacuate those cities? How do we safely get people out of here? And so we identified, okay, these roads can handle the traffic. Cool. It was brought up about the city of Galveston. They had fuel stops at 100 miles out. Problem is, people don't. I'll go ahead and pick on my wife for a minute. She'll be the first one to pull up to the house. Hey, I need gas. Okay, didn't you pass 14 gas stations on the way home? Yeah, but I just want to go ahead and get home. And we got a gas station a mile from the house, so I go, let me get you gas before you have to go to work tomorrow since you passed every one. And then I'll jump in. I'm like, God, it's a mile from the house, and I might have enough gas to make it 100 yards. So you can't tell me everybody's parking their car at their house full of gas. And so we're like, take this predictive analysis and go, okay, I don't think 3/4 of these people are going to make it to that 100-mile mark for fuel. Or what we might think, hey, these interchanges, we can get them and flow plenty of traffic. It's a big road on a map. It looks good to me. After, the computer software is going to say, no, it'll only handle 500 cars an hour, and you need to get 20,000 cars an hour out of there. Here's all your different routes you need to do. You need to open up these. And so that's going to start thinking ahead and helping you do all your safety planning for an entire city in general. And I'm using that, and you can do smart cities for all kind of other stuff, but that is just in general. And so that's where, and I'll go ahead and wrap up my speaking with saying that I mentioned the amount of data that's out there, the human ability to process so much data. I mean, Lord, that's why we started developing technology and computers anyway, because more data, faster, process it more. And so we need help just compiling all the data, making it so, and I get it's part of the business model of, this program will only talk to certain stuff over here because I want to sell you these products. Cool, great, it's your business model. I'm not going to get in all that. But I need systems that can talk to each other just so I can do sharing data. I can share data to help make decisions, continue further public safety. So that's it. I appreciate your time. Sorry for walking all over. I tend to be an animated speaker, talk with my hands a lot. So anyway, thank y'all. I'll be hanging around.